computer. Okay. Morning, Chris. Thank you for attending this webinar, which is a general discussion about GAI and ChatGPT and its applications to contract and commercial management. This is a discussion between myself, Dr. Ray Carter from DPSS, and from Chris Wilson, our resident AI expert and prompt engineer. So, Chris, a lot's been in the media recently about AI taking over the world and making a bit redundant and all these other stories. Perhaps you could give us a more coherent overview of what AI actually means.
Yeah, sure. Well, like you say, it's been in the news for literally everywhere. So unless you've been on planet Mars, I'm sure you would have heard about it. But it's basically a open source program, and it's got it's been developed over a period of time, and it's basically a like generative artificial intelligence, which means it learns, and it learns and understands contextual language, if you like. So it has a great understanding of the context of the English or other languages, basically.
I guess a good example of that would be like legal work, legal language. You're saying it could quickly learn the nuances of legal language.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's got the ability to, like I say, because it can contextualize and it understands the context of human language. It can very easily interpret. You can, for example, take a block of legal text and ask it to contextually put it into, let's say, layman's terms. And it has the ability to do that. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's okay. So how is ChatGPT different from other AI models? I mean, we know there's a few around. So what makes it special or more applicable for us in commercial?
Well, it's what makes like ChatGPT different is its sheer size. I mean, we're talking here of it has over at present it has over 175 billion parameters that it's worked around, and the developers have sort of put together all sorts of data sets from the internet, from books, from scientific journals, from all sorts of different areas, and over a period of time, without human supervision, the program has learned how to contextualize all of that. So it's just its sheer size, but the real difference ChatGPT has made is its ability, because of that understanding, its ability to have what you could say a realistic back and forth conversation.
So I think some people think that AI just is a very sophisticated search engine going through the internet, but I don't think is that correct, or is that not correct?
So you have different. You've got the free version of ChatGPT, if you like, which doesn't surf the internet. I think I know that the information it gathers from the internet goes up to about 2021. However, you can actually, I think there's a subscription-based version of it, if you like, where it allows you to add on extensions to the program, where it does actually surf the internet live whilst you're interacting with it, if you like.
So yeah, I guess if we're looking at sort of legal aspects, then changes in government policy, changes in legislation, our users would need to be able to access that latest information.
Oh yes. I mean, this is the thing. I think people have to be. There are, I guess, limitations to it in terms of it's not going to replace human oversight. That always, you know, the responsibility of the output, if you like, just like you would do a Google search, if for want of a better example, if you do a Google search, more often than not, you have to refine your search to actually get what you want.
I think that would be very, very pleasing to the ears of our colleagues in legal and contractor who might be thinking this is the end of their world. So we will still be needed, us experts in inverted commas, even if it does take off and is applied. You know, technical experts will still be needed to check and review it, as you've said. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I'm from the world of publishing, and that's my background, if you like, both print and digital. So, you know, even then, you know, you can have an award-winning journalist that writes a really detailed piece on any sort of subject. It still has to be fact-checked and proofread and all of the other things that go with it. So it's not going to replace that. No.
Okay. What about some specific examples for our listeners in terms of things like procurement and supply chain?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a good question, because the thing with a program like generative artificial intelligence or ChatGPT, it takes out a lot of what, you know, think about how long it would take you, for example, to write a scope, and the labor intensity that actually needs to do. You can ChatGPT will take that side of things away. So as long as you know how to prep it and prompt it and put the right sort of commands in there, you can get what would have taken you, let's say, I don't know, a week's work. Let's say you can have the content, or at least the framework for it, in probably a day and a half. So you end up where, you know, you want procurement managers to procure, right? I mean, you can end up where you're sort of overwhelmed with paperwork and administrative type duties, and it takes a person away from their skill set. So ChatGPT has got that ability to help us focus on where our skill sets lie.
It's almost like having a very intelligent assistant that doesn't cost you much money.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'd like one of those. So I'm definitely going to subscribe to this. I can already see some applications. What about some real world examples that you could share with us?
Well, you know, I mean, you can see it already in parts of the news, for example, where there's been reports of how AI has helping in the medical profession, for example.
Yeah.
You know, here in the UK, you've got all sorts of waiting lists for results of tests and things like that. And AI is already making strides into helping the medical profession analyze all that data much quicker. Like I say, it's not going to replace a doctor, but I mean, it will help at least analyze all of that data, and it's cutting down and helping doctors spend more time with sort of face-to-face patient interactions, which is basically what a doctor should be doing.
Yeah. Yes. More doctoring and less documents, as it were.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So it's so far so good in terms of AI and ChatGPT. But what about some of the limitations and challenges people may face when we start to roll this out for companies?
Yeah. Well, there are always going to be risks involved, and ChatGPT can get things wrong. But this is like we touched on earlier. That's where it's never going to replace human oversight. It can help with the donkey work, if you like, but it's never going to replace human oversight. So, the responsibility of data protection and protecting your brand, if you like, or compliance and things like that. ChatGPT can be prompted with a framework, if you like, to work within, and it can produce some really, really good detailed analytical content, but it will still have to have human oversight.
So I guess that's the mitigation, isn't it? The mitigation to reduce the probability of things passing through that are not correct is this human oversight that you've mentioned.
Yeah, you're not going to, or at least we haven't found any sort of technology yet that can be that can take that away.
Okay, very good, excellent. Also, we're talking here about handling complex legal language in contracts, particularly, which obviously will be interest to our clients and our listeners. A lot of them who are obviously involved in contract management, and contracts are critical to what they do. So, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think where AI comes in that sense is its ability to take out the ambiguity, if you like. You can literally take a whole series of documents and ask it to remove the ambiguity of it, and you literally instantaneously, almost, you can get the result. But again, that's something you would have to check it, and I think people need to learn how it thinks, and how to interact with it to get the best output. And this is the I think where a lot of people at the moment are only sort of scratching the surface. They're only just beginning to understand the sheer versatility of it, really.
Okay. The other thing is prompt engineering. Can you just explain a little bit how that works? I mean, if you give us a simple example of how you would have to prompt the software, rather than you can't just say, look at this legal document and change it. You'd have to, I guess there must be steps in that process.
Yeah. So prompt engineering is just understanding how ChatGPT thinks, if you like, if you want to use that phrase, or how it learns more than anything. So, for example, just use it as just think of it as very similar to how we search things through Google, for example. So when you're thinking of something to search for on Google, you have a question in your mind. So every search is based on a question. You want some information, right? So that's how you start. So ChatGPT's ability to understand context, you can literally train it and hone it in stepped sort of instructions to eventually get to where you want and the content that you want. I guess, as an example, you could probably ask it, well, what does an architect do? Okay, and it will spit out and give you some very generalized information on what an architect does. But you might want to sort of then ask it further questions to hone into the point where you're going, the information that you want.
Oh, okay. So it might be an architect of industrial buildings followed by an architect of industrial buildings in the US. I mean, that's the kind of sort of step by step, drilling down, I guess.
Yeah. So it's a layering in of prompt, and the formulaic way that you should prompt it to get the best out of it. And this is where I think certain training needs to, it's essential that people get the right training to do that.
Yeah. Also, I mean, is ChatGPT applicable in outside of the UK? I mean, can it cope with regional differences and different types of industries, or
Oh
is it a bit
yes,
more limited than that?
yeah, it can translate. I think I think every language, as far as I know, but it can translate language. You could say have a company, let's say in the Middle East or Southeast Asia, that want to look at contracts written in the UK, for example, in UK English,
Mhm.
and you can translate it into a language that they understand, or they can find much more easier to understand.
And also presumably, I mean, our clients normally, overseas clients, normally not only want it translated, but they want it demystified. They want us to take the legalese out of it, so it's more understandable to them. Again, that's something that ChatGPT can do, I guess.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I mean, that is a big strength of it. It can take the ambiguity out. It can take, like I say, a block of legal text, and you can ask it to write it in layman's terms, if you like.
Mhm.
You can even, if you want to, ask it to interpret it into high school English, or you know, you could ask it to write it in Shakespearean if you want to, and but that's not going to make it. That's not
I
going to
can't
make it.
understand Shakespeare as it is, let alone put it into
Yeah,
legal context. That would be an interesting
yeah,
experiment. I think that would confuse our overseas
I
customers
think
a
so.
little
Yeah,
bit, but
yeah.
yeah. So, in terms of these models, how do you see it reshaping the landscape in terms of contracting and procurement and commercial activities? How do you see it? How do you see it going into the future?
I just see it as there's a lot of fear around it. People like anything that's new. I mean, you read and see articles on how, the fear of it taking people's jobs and things like that. But I see it differently. I think the rise of the use of it, and as it starts to sort of integrate through different industries, you're going to find new roles and new skill sets that are going to come from it, such as what we mentioned earlier. Prompt engineering, for example, is a fairly new sort of concept that has arisen by the rise of artificial intelligence. But I think the major changes that people are going to see is just the sheer efficiency that it allows you to do in a particular role. I think over the years we've seen how roles which years ago were quite narrow, and you would fall, and your role would be this wide, but now you've got the same role, but you end up doing all sorts of other administrative tasks and so on. ChatGPT can come in and do that and literally help you focus more on where your skills, and for an organization where you want the most out of your staff, if you like.
Well, that leads me nicely on to training, which of course is our
Yeah,
particular interest.
yeah.
One of our particular interests in AI. So, what do you think training should start at the introduction level, or go straight into harnessing? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I think I think it should start at the introductory level. Yeah, that would sort of give you a sort of a sort of an idea of what its limitations are, what are the basic risks, and you need to understand that. How to interact with it, how to put together a sort of a prompt, if you like, just a standard prompt, and how to layer that prompt to get further and further into what you're looking for. But yes, training. That's basically the art of mastering this new technology. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
expedition of the subject, a tour de force, as it were.
Yeah.
And I'm sure our listeners and clients will be very happy to access this and get a lot of value from it. So thank you, Chris, for your time today. Much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you, Ray, and I'll speak to you soon. Thanks.
Okay.
All right. See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.